Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, we're going to talk about this video right here. It was kicking around the internet for a few days. Had to do with an attempted home invasion in Auburn, Washington. Now, I had an opportunity actually to talk about this, although it didn't make it on the news itself when I talked to King 5 about another incident that we'll be talking about on a separate video that occurred down in Golden Gardens down in Shilshoe Bay. This was, however, really made a lot of rounds on the internet, got a lot of national attention, a lot of people talking about it. I think there are a couple of really important lessons. The first one is really obvious. The second one, maybe not so much. So today, let's spend a few minutes, let's geek out on the law, and let's talk about, can I legally shoot a home intruder? Okay, so this is what we're talking about today. We are talking about the lawful use of force in self-defense and whether or not we can use a lethal force on a home intruder. Now, the hypothetical that we're going to be talking about is not a hypothetical, actually. It is a real incident. In fact, let's just roll the tape.
Seattle Police!
Okay, pretty crazy set of events. Now, first of all, to the robbers, announcing yourself as the Seattle Police when you're in the city of Auburn, which is about 35 miles south of downtown Seattle. Now, understand, the Seattle Police right now are so defunded and have their hands tied so far behind their back, they can't even police the city of Seattle. So they certainly are not going to be able to assist in policing the city of Auburn. Now, let's talk about general self-defense rules and lethal force so we get this all in our heads. Okay, as we know, we can use any reasonable force necessary to defend ourselves or other people in our presence or our property. All force that we use has to be necessary. It has to be reasonable, both objectively and subjectively. And finally, it has to be proportional. Now, under Washington law, and understand that for you watching somewhere outside the state of Washington, you may have nuances to your law, so I want you to consult with local counsel. But as a general rule, and I've looked around the nation, and this appears to be pretty much a general rule, there are 4 instances in which we can use lethal force in defense of ourselves. They are, number 1, you yourself are in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. Okay. Number 2, somebody else in your presence is in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. Number 3, a felony is going to be committed or is about to be committed upon your person, which when you think about the types of felonies that are committed upon your person, it really is another way of restating factor number 1, which is you yourself are in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. And then the 4th way that we can use lethal force, usually, is that a felony is being committed inside our home. Now, when we go back and we take a look at this tape, and let's just assume an arguendo here that this person lives alone. Well, he most definitely is in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. There are not 1, not 2, but 3 armed robbers attempting a forceful invasion of the home. That absolutely positively places this homeowner in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury and would justify the use of lethal force. Let's take a look at the 3rd factor. A felony is being committed upon your person. What we have here may be labeled as a burglary on the breaking in of the home, but don't kid yourself. With the people at home armed with firearms, this is also going to entail a robbery. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that at the very best case scenario, it's going to entail a robbery. It could entail something far more sinister and serious than that, including murder. So, is the homeowner having a felony committed upon his person at that point? He most certainly is. And then finally, let's take a look at the fourth criteria, which is that a felony is being committed inside this home. Because this is absolutely, positively an attempted burglary. Burglary is, in fact, a felony. And granted, when they are armed with firearms and coming into an occupied home, they're probably up to a lot more sinister things than merely just a home invasion. So, already, without even really scratching under the surface, this homeowner has 3 of the 4 potential reasons to use lethal force. But let's also consider something else that is probably quite likely, which is that this home is actually occupied by multiple people, including the homeowner's spouse and their kids potentially, which means now you have multiple other people who are in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury, all of which happen to be in your presence. They live with you in your home, and you are justified in using lethal force in that situation. So the bottom line is that if this dude lives home alone, he has 3 of the 4 potential ways to use lethal force lawfully. And since he in all likelihood cohabitates that house with other people, he probably has all 4 legal justifications for using lethal force. Now, let's remember, what I am telling you is I am telling you what you have the right to do. I'm not saying that this is doing the right thing. I'm not saying this is doing the wrong thing either. I leave that up to the tactical people, the firearms trainers, and so forth like that. I'm going to stay inside my lane here, which is telling you what the application of the law is. So, is this a lawful use of lethal force? It most certainly is. There is not 1, not 2, but at least 3, and probably 4 legal justifications. That's the first really important lesson to learn from this. There's a second one, Washington State, which is, who's ever going to need a magazine that carries more than 10 rounds? Why does anybody need that? In fact, the experts will tell you, well, there's only 2.2 shots used in a self-defense situation. Yeah, that may be the national average based upon a bunch of crap when we're talking about a single attacker upon a single victim. But what's happening here? You have 3 armed robbers. Take a look. Each one of them is carrying their own firearm. I'm sure they're all carrying magazines which carry less than 10 rounds. So for those who suggest that nobody ever needs a magazine which exceeds more than 10 rounds, let me show you Exhibit A of why exactly you might need one. Oh, it's this right here. And this again goes to show how laws that ban firearms and firearm components from all of you lawful and responsible gun owners, not only in Washington State, but nationwide, has absolutely nothing to do with saving lives, but it has everything to do with disarming you. So, in almost all instances, if you are the victim of a violent home invasion, you will have the right to use lethal force. That's what you will have the right to do. Whether it's the right thing or not, that depends on individual circumstances. The other lesson to learn from this is that magazine bans don't save lives, but they certainly can cost them. Listen, if you have any more questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information's right down there in the description box. Now, in the meantime, let's remember that part of being a lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching, and stay safe.